In this episode of True Crime Black, we look at the case of a young man who vanished. Before his disappearance, he was going through a lot of internal struggles. On the last day that his family spoke to him, he told his grandmother that he had an epiphany. He never told her what that epiphany was. Did it have something to do with his disappearance? Or was it just a manifestation of his struggles? Either way, we are still searching for answers. With that said, let's get started. A young man's family hopes that a new investigation discovery special program can help them find their missing loved one. In May of 2016, a 19-year-old from Tumwater, Washington disappeared. Drivers spotted his car abandoned on I-5 with his wallet, cash, food, and his cell phone. The investigators in this case don't have any evidence of foul play, but consider the missing persons case suspicious nonetheless. "This case bothers me," said Thurston County Detective Frank Frawley. He expressed that he can't say one way or another if the young man is alive or dead. That is the most frustrating part for all of those involved. This young man just vanished into thin air and left little to no evidence behind that could help us figure out what happened to him. The hope is that the attention on this case will help spark someone's memory. This is the case of Logan Schiendelman. Logan Drew Schiendelman was born in Tumwater, Washington on June 27, 1996. Logan was raised by Ginny Gibo, his grandmother from his mother's side. In a story that is unfortunately far too familiar, Logan's father was never in his life. He was so apathetic to even the thought of raising his son that he left the United States entirely before Logan was even born. Logan would also not have his mother in his life consistently either. When Logan was born, his mother Hannah moved to Seattle so that she could attend art school. That is how Logan and his older sister Chloe became legal dependents of Ginny. Logan attended Tumwater High School where he would be a standout athletically. He became a star of his school's football team as a defensive back. Academically, his teachers remember him as a model student. Despite his many positive qualities, Logan was having a lot of turmoil internally. Logan was mixed. He was half black and half white, which those close to him say gave him a bit of an identity crisis. His grandmother was a white woman and Logan was curious as to what the African American side of his family was like. Those close to the family have claimed that Ginny went to lengths to make sure Logan did not have contact with that side of his family. They say that she kept him away from them and gave him little information about them. She also did what she could to prevent them from reaching out to him or visiting. Ginny has denied those claims and says that it is their side of the family who has been reluctant to make any effort to be in Logan's life. Logan would finish high school in 2015. Afterward, he would go to Washington State University. The school was in Pullman, which was about 300 miles away from where he was born and raised. With Logan away at college, his older sister would move back home to her grandmother's house and bring her boyfriend with her. While Logan was away at school, he seemed to regress in more ways than one. After he completed his first year of college, he told his grandmother that he was dropping out of school. He said that the first year was just too much for him. He'd lost touch with all of his friends from high school and couldn't make any friends at the university. Strangely, Logan had been displaying a lot of traits of paranoia since returning home. He told his grandmother that he believed someone had been watching him through his bedroom window. He also thought that he was being followed. His grandmother discovered that he had started smoking marijuana and believed that his paranoia was a result of that new habit. Adjusting to life back home was continuing to be challenging for Logan. He and his sister's boyfriend didn't get along at all. According to those close to the family, the two of them frequently got into arguments and even had physical altercations more than once. Ginny, however, says that there were never any fights or arguments. She acknowledged that the two of them didn't get along, but says that they would just stay out of each other's way when they were both in the house. One of the things that would get Logan out of the house regularly was his search for a means of income. He began working odd jobs around the town, including at a local laundromat. while filling out job applications, Logan ran into a former classmate who also noted that he seemed strange and not like himself at all. Throughout all of this, Logan was still consumed with curiosity about the other side of his family that he'd never gotten to know. At one point, he reached out to his maternal relatives and they agreed to meet him. Those who were present say that it was a very emotional meeting for all involved. Logan was shown pictures of his grandfather and uncle and said to have remarked, "It feels good to see someone that looks like me." His aunt said that Logan really seemed to be in need of answers with regard to their side of the family. He also seemed frustrated that he couldn't get those answers from Ginny. According to one of his relatives, Logan told them that if his grandmother found out he had been seeing and talking to his black relatives, she would be very angry. Ginny was of course asked about this, and she denied that she ever gave him the impression that she wanted him to have nothing to do with that side of his family. She would reiterate her claim that they never made any effort to get a hold of Logan or see him, and that she hadn't talked to his grandfather in many years either. Logan would continue to act strangely as time went on. On May 19, 2016, Logan and his grandmother were both getting ready to leave for work at their respective jobs. Then, Logan began rambling and talking about bizarre and irrelevant topics. He told his grandmother that he had an epiphany while he was driving around one day. When she pressed him on what that epiphany was, he told her that he would tell her all about it after they both got home from work. Ginny brushed it off and dropped it, something that she now regrets doing. That is because that was the last time she would speak with her grandson. Later that day, Ginny returned home from work and was surprised that Logan wasn't there. After giving it time, she decided to track his location through his phone. She saw that it was near Olympia, Washington, where his mother lived. Ginny thought that he must have been visiting her. She gave her a call and asked for Logan. She was told that Logan had not been there at all that day. When Logan had still not returned home the next day, Ginny called the police to report him missing. Frustratingly, the police department was closed for the weekend and she had to wait until Monday, May 23rd to report him missing. The police began investigating and started with his phone's location. While Ginny had told them that Logan's location pinged at his mother's house, the police got a different read. They traced his phone and learned that he'd gone north and south on Highway I-5 multiple times. The police were baffled as to why he would do that. It turned out that on May 20th, the day that Ginny initially tried to report him missing, Logan's car was discovered. The black 1996 Chrysler Sebring was found abandoned along a southbound lane of I-5 in Rochester, Washington. Inside the car were Logan's cell phone, wallet, driver's license, and a few bags of food. Curiously, Rochester, the area where the car was found, is about 20 miles south of Ginny's home. Almost as soon as they found Logan's car, witnesses began to come forward. The same day that Logan's car was found abandoned, the police received several 911 calls that afternoon. At around 2 p.m., callers were complaining about a black Sebring drifting across the lanes of I-5 between Tumwater and Maytown near milepost 92. They told the dispatcher that the car crashed and then a 6-foot-tall Caucasian man, with either brown or red hair, jumped out of the passenger side of the Sebring and ran towards the thick woods on the side of the interstate. Coincidentally, a witness claimed to have seen Logan with 2 white men that morning. They were standing by his car, which was parked on the right shoulder of the southbound lane on I-5 near exit 95. The witness said that she saw the car in the same location on her way back home, but this time the hood was up. The police conducted a 2-mile search of the wooded area near the interstate. They used cadaver and tracking dogs. Sadly, the search turned up no evidence or information that would help them locate Logan. They searched for 6 hours but found no evidence of Logan or anybody else in the area. Then, again on May 20th, a witness called to report a naked teenager in the wooded area near the interstate. Nothing of significance came from that tip. With next to no information to work with, investigators, family members, and outside observers have been left to speculate just what could have happened to Logan. One of the early theories held is that Logan made the decision himself to leave home. Those who subscribe to this theory point to his reportedly less than content feeling about not knowing the African American side of his family. Those close to him said that he endured a lot of racial remarks and insults due to his mixed background. If what his maternal relatives said was true, he may have felt more accepted by that side of his family and less accepted at home and decided to leave. Some have speculated that the epiphany he said he had was related to finally meeting his maternal relatives for the first time. Another theory centers around the possibility that Logan suffered from some sort of mental breakdown. He'd already become more isolated and withdrawn in college. Then, he was dealing with the stress of butting heads with his sister's boyfriend. Lastly, meeting the other side of his family is something that some believe pushed his mental state over the edge because of his identity crisis. He had also expressed that he thought he was being watched and followed. He could have believed he was fleeing danger. Then there is the theory that someone other than Logan caused his disappearance. In other words, some believe that Logan's disappearance was due to foul play. Some of the investigators honed in on Ginny's mentioning that Logan started smoking pot often when he returned from college. They presented the possibility that he was involved with drug dealers who may have been after him for money. Then there was his uncle, Mike Ware. Ware was a retired county sheriff who helped with the search when Logan had initially gone missing. He believes that Chloe's boyfriend had something to do with Logan's disappearance. The police, however, had ruled him out as a suspect because he passed a polygraph. Mike doesn't think a polygraph should rule him out, but the police have stuck with this. The investigators have also floated the possibility that the white men Logan was reported to have been with could have possibly done something to him. Logan's case was shared on the Investigation Discovery TV show Disappeared on April 8, 2018. His family has also offered a $10,000 reward for anyone with information leading to a break in his case. The message Logan's family has for him is that he is welcome home anytime, no matter what happened. They also want to let him know that he can always call them to at least let them know he's okay, even if he doesn't want to come back home. In the year 2020, human skeletal remains were found near a dock in Longview, Washington. The police are still working on identifying the body. Logan's family has been waiting to see if the remains are Logan's, even though they most likely aren't. A police sketch of the victim was released 2 years later and the facial features are noticeably different from Logan's. Then, more coincidences would draw attention to Logan's case. In September 2022, an eerily similar case regarding 16-year-old Gabriel Davies occurred in nearby Longview, Washington. Davies, like Logan, was a star athlete and football player. He was reported missing, last seen in a remote area of Thurston County on his way to football practice. Similarly, Davies's friends and family say that he was acting strange and withdrawn in the days leading up to his disappearance. Witnesses had also seen him walking alone alongside a busy road. That is where the similarities to their disappearances end. In a bizarre and unexpected twist, Gabriel Davies was found alive and then placed in handcuffs. According to Pierce County documents, Davies is accused of first- and second-degree murder, first-degree burglary, and 2 counts of illegal possession of a firearm. The charges are in connection with the murder of a 51-year-old male in his community. The man who was murdered was reportedly the ex-fiancé of his mother. Justin Yoon, a friend of Davies, was also arrested as an accomplice in the murder. Based on sources, Davies's car was found abandoned in his family's driveway. Inside was smeared blood and his smashed cell phone was found nearby. That sparked a 2-day search for the missing teen. He was found 2 days later without any shoes or a shirt on. He initially told the investigators that he couldn't remember what happened to him or how he ended up where they found him. Then he said he couldn't tell them because there were people that would hurt him for telling. When the investigators were looking into the murder of the 51-year-old male mentioned previously, they found surveillance footage of Davies and his friends sneaking into his house around the time that he was murdered. Investigators theorize that Gabriel Davies faked his disappearance in order to evade suspicion and capture for the murder that he and his friend committed. While there have been other similar disappearances in the same area, there is no way to definitively link them. Logan's family is still desperately looking for answers in his case. Sadly, any answers seem to be out of reach until someone can come forward. Until then, the case of Logan Drew Schiendelman remains unsolved.